Hello, everybody. Chris here, day 13 of 43. It's Monday, and been a nice weekend. I'd just like to catch up, as there was no video yesterday, but it was quite an active day. I'll maybe start on day 12 just to fill you in. So it was the day the clock changed. So the clocks went back, so we had an hour extra in bed. Well, it's kind of upset my rhythm a bit. Of course, there are benefits to having more daylight, but upset my routine. And Sunday, I think, was about maybe upsetting the routine. I had a few hours to spare in the morning before my family picked me up to go back to the flat in Vienna. And in those 3 hours, I was working on this channel, and there was a creative burst, and I just went full into it. I mean, before I started working, I measured my blood pressure. It was relatively normal. And I was 3 hours sitting at the laptop. I just lost myself in time, and that's what I've been like at work. I work digitally, remotely, and so sometimes it drags on, but most of the time you're just in the flow. But without taking breaks, the effect that had on me was a bit of a shocking realization for me, because I measured my blood pressure and it was very high. And albeit the work I was doing, I enjoy all the new things I'm doing for this channel and learning. But nevertheless, I think my body, or maybe everyone's body, I can't speak for everyone, but for me personally, sitting at a laptop without taking breaks is not healthy. And so I have a lot to think about when I go back to working, at least for the near future, and what happens beyond then. I was taken aback. So it's something I can obviously keep tracking if you have access to a blood pressure machine, or they're relatively inexpensive. You can buy them in the chemists, or I will test this more often, especially when I go back to work. And it's going to be now a focus on how I can improve that in the next weeks. So, as I mentioned, the family came to pick me up, and which is really nice. We got to talk again, and we had a little lunch, and then we went back to the flat, and I made one of my coffees, and it was heaven compared to the coffee here. Coffee here is like dishwater, dirty dishwater. But nevertheless, it was nice being with family. We got to talk again, and just to catch up on the day-to-day activities. Yeah, it's Halloween coming up. There were Halloween costumes, and it's a nice time for the kids. And unfortunately, I'm not there to make those memories, but next time. It actually upset me to go back to the flat. The doctor here asked me, is that my plan? You know, we can ask to go and stay the night outside of this clinic, but we need the doctor's permission. And so just that day visit to the flat, I've decided I won't be going back. Why is that? Because I would say 90% of the time I was in the flat yesterday, I was working on the open tasks, the to-do list, running around, just working. And we've been doing some renovations, so there's plenty of work to be done. The work is never done. And so the trip home was not what it was meant to be. At least I didn't use it as it should have been, just to relax and spend time with the family. And so I feel a bit guilty about that. But I think it's best for me to stay away. I've spoken to my wife and it's totally fine. Maybe we just meet on Sundays in neutral places. So I think this is the way forward. But it's made me a little nervous about adapting after this stay in the clinic is over. Something I will work on in the next weeks anyway, speaking to the therapist here on an individual basis, which I have this week, my first one. And so let's see how that pans out. Yeah, so that was day 12. And skipping now to day 13, which is what today, and that's a Monday. It's been an action-packed day, starting with the morning activation. I've been terrible in the mornings. I'm just like a bit of a zombie. And this morning activation, what is that? It's basically, today we played a game called Mikado, which is sticks with different colors, and they're just dropped, and you have to pull away the stick without upsetting or disturbing the other sticks. So then you keep your collection. And if you do disturb it, the collection of sticks, then you put it back, and then it's someone else's turn. But this was done in a group, and after each turn, someone got to say what kind of exercise the group should do. So it was stretching arms, stretching neck, touching your toes, star jumps. It goes on. It was fantastic. I was activated. I'm always amazed. I've said it before. The structure here has a reason. And sometimes you wonder, what is this now? But actually, I get something from the vast majority of these appointments, and I'll go on to talk about the rest of today, but it's really fantastic. And maybe I talk myself into the fact that I'm not a morning person, therefore I'm not a morning person. But if I change my mentality, frame it differently, try to get up a bit earlier, and use some of these techniques, maybe I am a morning person. I just haven't given that a chance. So that's a big takeaway for me today. Then we had a focus group. If you remember last week, we had a focus group where we did this. We drew out our apartment, our life in an apartment. But this was a different group, and we had our real therapist. And so it was super nice because we were asked to, at the start, stand in a circle. And everyone had to walk into the center and say, today I feel because. And so when people did that, the rest of the group were asked, if you can associate with the same feeling, step forward. And the stronger you have that feeling, the closer you get to the person in the middle. And so it was a good way of gauging the feeling in the room, what's going on with people. And that was really, really, really powerful. I mentioned the fact that I'm happy. I feel much more at ease now I'm back in the clinic after my visit home. As I said earlier, not because of my family, but it's just the environment at home in the current state of the renovations. It's not good, and I'm really happy to be back in the group. And so I felt comfortable. And then everyone did the same, and I also stepped forward when the same feelings of others were matched. It was a really nice icebreaker, and also, as I said, to gauge the feeling in the room and identify where others are having problems, because not people are not really talking about it, and it's Monday morning. It's usually harder to get started. That was a super start. And then in the focus group, we were asked to draw a family shield. What I mean by that. And so you were to draw a shield with your name on the top, and then you need to separate it into four. And three out of those four segments, you drew what you like to do, or your hobbies, or what is good about you. And then one of them had to be a lie, a made up hobby or whatever. And that was super nice exercise. I drew, I love going to the beach on holiday and building sandcastles with my family. I love it. It reminds me of my childhood, and I like doing that with the kids. And I also love listening to music, if you know me, especially the 90s. And I love the end-to-end coffee process, from roasting, grinding, and espresso making. My lie was opera. And that was super fun. I was called out because somebody asked me, what was the last opera you went to? And I was like, my poker face was terrible, but it was a great, I just started laughing, and it was really funny. It was one of those, you had to be there, but it was fantastic. And of course, we did this in pairs. So I read out my neighboring patient's chart, and they did mine. And so it was a good way of getting to know each other better. Yes. And then we did social competency training. Action packed here. I will try to summarize that a bit faster. Social competency training today was a role play. So two volunteers played the role of the man, or the husband, and the second, the wife. And the wife, just to set the scene, came back from work. She said, such a rough day at work. My boss is just giving me more to do. I don't know how I'm going to do my normal work. And then the husband was lying on the couch and just says, drink a coffee, it'll be fine. Just continue to watch the television. And then there was a back and forth exchange of words. And so we had to get into groups and discuss what were the mistakes made by the husband, what was the mistakes made by the wife, what were the feelings of the wife, what were the feelings of the husband, and how could it have turned out better. And so we all discussed solutions. And again, it's one of those situations, what am I going to get from this? But I got a lot, because I believe I have been guilty of being both the wife in that situation, coming home and just trying to offload my plate immediately without, getting grounded or settled into the house, and just offloading. And, not everyone's on the same page. What do you expect to be able to offload? And I've also maybe played the role of the husband who was not paying attention to his wife. And it really got me thinking, and I've taken a lot from today. And I will try to be more attentive and be there for my wife. And I will discuss this with her as well, because I think we can find a better solution where we can sense each other when we need to talk. And then once the kids are in bed, then isolate some time just for that. And so we listen to each other on a level where it's not stressful. And then there's going to be no reactions. Yeah. Super class there. Then I had lunch with some other group members that I haven't had lunch with before. So that was nice. I'm trying to be a bit of a social butterfly and just floating around the group instead of, sticking to one or the other. The next class was wellness, and the focus was how smells affect us. Yeah. And we talked about the type of smells that we like and which bring back memories of childhood or places we'd been to. And it sparked a nice discussion. And then the activity was there was a box of oils. And so there was a list beside it, and you could choose one of those oils and then just go back to your seat and smell it. Smell it under your nose, on your chest, and wave it. And it's amazing on the left nostril, right nostril. Unfortunately, my nose started to bleed during that, which brought all of the attention onto me, which I didn't feel great about. But actually, it was amazing just doing left, right nostril. The right, maybe, for my case, had a stronger sense of the smell. By putting it here and waving it, it also had a different effect on how it smelled. And my oil actually was a Swiss Alpine pine oil. I just picked one at random, but it took me back to when I used to spend time in the mountains and these lovely crafted wooden houses. It's just beautiful being in the nature so high up here in Austria, the Alps. If you've seen The Sound of Music, kind of that setting. But in these beautiful wooden houses, it's a very nice smell and very homely. And maybe we'll do a holiday there in the near future. But again, another nice class where, I think my wife has a lot of these oils at home. I just see them in the cupboard and I've always thought they're just in the way. When I go home, I'm going to start going and smelling them and just to see. Maybe it just grounds me now and again. And yeah, I'm open for that. And then we played badminton as a group. And I'm playing badminton again this evening. So I think badminton seems to be the sport of choice and activity within the group. And that suits me down to the ground because it's my childhood sport. And yeah, I appreciate I've talked a lot, but I'm relatively relaxed. To be honest, I'm happy to be back. And yes, this is Chris Wilson, day 13, and that's where I'm at. Thank you.